the thesis is that we want to bring the power of Codex to everyone. We've said it quite a bit and a number of times. Codex is for everyone, Codex is for everything, and you can Codex from literally anywhere. And in this sort of short 10 to 15 minutes through 3 demos, I hope to share a bit more about how Codex can save you some time. So suppose, let's say I just woke up, I know it's 1 p.m., and I'm a bit overwhelmed by the 1001 things that happen. And that's particularly the case at OpenAI because most of the company works in SF. So everything is happening while we're sleeping. So maybe we will ask Chat, which we very affectionately call ChatGPT Chat, some help here. So I'm just going to go use the dictation feature and say, hey Chat, can you tell me what I need to do today? Can you scan my Gmail, my Google Calendar, and my Slack messages, please? So I really like just talking to Codex, like you don't really have to type anymore and you just be more expressive. What's nice here is that Codex is automatically connecting to 3 different systems, Gmail, Calendar, and Slack. You can also be very explicit in connecting with them with the @ sign, for example, as I'm typing right here, and that would be explicit. But we're at a stage where the models are really good at also just being implicit, and what sort of do is that. Over time, for example, if you just say, can you tell me what I need to do today? And given previous interactions, it knows that these would be the 3 systems you would need. And you would see, for example, right here, you would see in what we call the chain of thought summaries, Codex has also ChatGPT Work has very clearly showed the steps it's taken. So just as an example of what's actually happening behind the scenes, I have this email where I sent myself some things to get done by EOD and by tomorrow. For example, first cut, the impact analysis for Build Week, doing a recap, incorporating some feedback from Daniel. And then over my calendar, right now, there is a product briefing at 5. There's an interview that I'll be conducting. I might be going for a meetup at 6 to 7, and I'm blocking off some time at 8. And importantly, at 12, I have this demo deadline that I need to complete. So that's sort of where information sits. I also have this habit of texting myself. So I've actually just texted myself some things where, for example, when incorporating Daniel's feedback, I need to be in different languages. And for the Codex meetup recap, I have some stray Apple notes there that I must remember. I'm reminding myself that it's important and it's there. So it's still taking in a bit. Codex would take maybe right now about a minute or so to do this. Why is that the case? So we're using these are what we call reasoning models. A bit like how before I'm speaking, I'm thinking. The models, likewise, they think and reason. This is also because why agents, they take multiple steps. They look at different sources, they search, they maybe even try to reconcile conflicting information. Here, in a minute and 36 seconds, Codex has given me my 4 end-of-day deliverables and even told me that I only have 1 window of time from 3 to 5 p.m. to work on this. It's pretty nice. It puts in a table, and you can also ask Codex to put it in different formats that maybe best helps you. And this is not just tied to the desktop browser. You can do it on the phone as well. So maybe let's try the same thing again on the phone. So right now here I have my phone. I'm just going to set it up. I'll just say, hey, Codex, can you scan my inbox, Slack, and Gmail and tell me what to do? But represent it as an image so that's easier for me to see, and I can just keep checking on that image. So use image gen to create that image. So you're going to send it off, and it's fired off from the phone. And then if you just refresh my page over here, and then you would see the new tasks would appear here as well shortly. So that's where we sort of did it once. And now maybe let's say we want to do it on a recurring basis. So again, let's ask ChatGPT Chat for that. Hey, Chat, this is really good. Can you do this every day at 9 a.m.? Thank you. So that way we can take one task that was done once and repeat it regularly every day. You can even specify every weekday, maybe weekends at a different time and so forth. But this would be an example. So Chat would then take this workflow that we have done and make it a repeatable process. And this is what we call a scheduled task. So it would say this daily action brief runs every day at 9 a.m. Singapore time, and it would scan the different sort of tools and give a prioritized list. And if you click it, you would see over here this entire workflow that's a scheduled task that's done and so forth. And then on the tab as well, you can find that a collection of tasks. So for myself, I have 20 over different scheduled tasks running. It involves reminders, looking at the latest information, but also some operational work. For example, I'm moving data from one spreadsheet to another spreadsheet. So that's our first demo, just getting the to-do list. So in the to-do list, there were 2 things that I needed to do actually. The first was this OpenAI Build Week impact analysis, and the second was this Codex Meetup recap. So let's go into the first to-do of the OpenAI Build Week impact analysis. So right now, and this is a real event. We are running a series of developer events around the world. To celebrate the amazing new models and developer tools we're launching. There is a live stream tonight, I believe, at 10 a.m. Pacific time, Monday 10 a.m. Pacific time. But these are all just some fictitious data. So suppose the event has already happened, and we want to do some sort of post-event analysis. So in this spreadsheet, we have like each row is like a different market, a campaign, the channels, spend, impressions, maybe some typical data that performance marketing would have. So we have this data set. And then we also have some past conversations. So I have a suspicion that this data is actually dirty. There's some errors in it. It's not exactly the source of truth. And we have some past conversations that reflect other organizational thinking. So here are just some fictitious screenshots. For example, on Gmail, there was some event moved to Thursday. Over here, the capacity had changed from 180 to 220. Over here, there was a need to have some QA for the local copy, and it's all in Gmail. But also on Slack, there's a whole long conversation, Priya and Hannah talking about who is the owner for Korea and Japan, in another sort of Slack channel where Daniel is asking about the reconciliation between the 180 and 220. So a lot of data exists everywhere in different systems. There's a timeline, things change over time. And I think that's where agents powered by 5.6 and the Codex harness are really good at. They are really good at reconciling these different sources. So here's an example of prompt that you could just really well put in directly with ChatGPT Work. So let's say, can you pull together this week's updates with the registration numbers and the relevant Slack and Gmail threads? And then I'm asking for the deliverable. I need to know what's driving signups across APAC, what's at risk, what do we need to decide before Thursday? And then the real artifact, the thing that I want to share with people, shareable work, is a spreadsheet, a slide deck for leadership, and then a dashboard with sites that different teams can use. So I'm going to ask Chat to just work on it. I'm going to fire it off. But before that, you might have noticed below that these templates. So what's nice is that because the last thing that we're asking for the presentation, Chat is even suggesting some templates. But in this case, we're not going to use it, and we'll just fire that off in a bit. So while that's working, I just wanted to quickly share a bit about plugins. So we did talk about plugins earlier, and we already sort of saw how effective they are in connecting to Gmail, Slack, and so forth. So for example, there's Gmail over here. You would also have a Outlook and many different tools. With the recent launch, we were able to unify the plugins available for ChatGPT Work and Codex. So developers or knowledge workers or anyone can have the same set of tools. The more tools there are, the stronger these agents can be and more effective they are. So in a bit of a cooking show style, I'm going to show what's already been created at the end. So here, I ran it like just a few minutes ago, and it worked for 20 minutes. So it really nicely analyzed the data. For example, registrations hit 3.2 thousand, week-on-week increase by 7.6%. Maybe some sort of cost the CPR calculations, and then they even noticed, for example, the capacity conflict, and then some follow-ups about who are the QA approvers for Korea and Japan. So it was able to tease out all these different follow-up actions that were sort of disparate and implicit in these different sources. This is a really fun one. So it creates a spreadsheet. Previously, if you were to click it, maybe you were to download it, but what's nice is if I click it right now, it would fully render within the website in ChatGPT. And this is like literally a spreadsheet. Like I can extend these things. There are different tabs, for example, the source data, the weekly analysis, charts, the actions and risks, and so forth. And you can, of course, download it and further edit it. It can also be created as a Google Sheet. So it can be an Excel file on its own or a Google Sheet. And same with the slide. It can be a slide on its own, a standalone slide, or a PowerPoint that you can download and further edit. So this is really a really nice first cut. So imagine you were off for lunch and your boss texted you asking you, hey, we got to do this done by end of day. You're just going to whip out your phone, just talk to Chat, and then Chat will give you that first draft. They can slowly iterate and with so forth, pulling data forever. So if you already have a sense of where things are, just share it with Chat. There's no need to give some magic prompt and so forth. So we created a spreadsheet, we created a slide deck. The third thing we wanted it to do was create a site. So site is a form of like a website that you can share. It can be dashboards, it can be games and so forth. Here we're using it to create a dashboard. So here's an example of what the dashboard was created. It looks pretty nice, pretty clean. It has even some of that narrative on for like the stakeholders. And it lets me slice the data. For example, if I was interested in India, you would see the metrics change. If I was interested in Singapore, and maybe I wanted all markets, so I want different channels like LinkedIn, YouTube, and so forth. So in a previous life, I did do some data analysis work, and people will always come to me asking for different slices of the data. This way, instead, you can create websites, a way for people to self-help, and that we can really amplify expertise across the organization. So that's the first demo where we were using it on ChatGPT Work on the website. We were able to get the information from Google Sheets, Slack, and Gmail, and we were able to create a PowerPoint, a spreadsheet, and a website. So it's really great stuff, and you can sort of already do that directly from your phone on the web starting today. For the last and third demo, I'm going to talk about our desktop app. What differentiates ChatGPT Work on the web and on the desktop is that there are some files that just are on our machine, and there's a lot of interesting stuff and context there that can be used, can be relevant for what we do. So this third thing that we want to do here is sort of have a recap site for the Codex meetup we had last week. So suppose I have like a folder of like 100 photos, all these photos taken from a photographer, sent right in from marketing, and it was a real event that happened last week. It was a very packed room in Seoul. And then we also have some data, spreadsheet data of like event metrics, who was going, page views, and also impressions of like social media posts. So maybe let's find a way we can like put all this together. So I have like a very simple, and one other thing, I also have a bunch of notes. So again, from my phone, I would send some notes over here, I would type it out, and it will all sync to my laptop. And it's all, again, very disparate. All the notes are everywhere. But I want to incorporate some of this. So I'm going to ask Chat to help me with that. So I'm just going to put this prompt over here and then just tag the app itself. So you will notice this yellow icon over here. That is the actual Notes app on the MacBook. And then I will just fire it off. And then we're going to let it do. So what ChatGPT Work can also do is use computer use, the ability to control other applications on your desktop with your permission, of course. If you grant it, you can grant the permission on a one-off basis for the rest of the conversation or for every time you use it. So there's a lot of controllability on how you can control what applications that ChatGPT Work can use. And then, for example, if you look over here, you would notice over here there's another cursor that's popped up. This is ChatGPT Work's cursor, as it's going to like click through the different files and read them and incorporate it. So this is going to take some time. It'll probably take about like because I'm using it at like a more thorough version, extra high, it might take about 10 minutes. So I'm going to show a version that was done just earlier with under 17 minutes, where it created their internal recap site and the carousel PDF. And it also gave some sort of commentary, and it even gave quite proactively, because previously I was trying to create LinkedIn posts, even proactively understanding what I needed, gave me a LinkedIn caption. And this is what it looks like. So this would be the LinkedIn carousel, the sort that you would see on LinkedIn where people scroll it. Again, there was no additional prompt. A single prompt was just that. ChatGPT was able to understand the event sequence, choose photos that were appropriate for the setting, and actually tell that story that we can resonate with external users. And then what the site looks like is over here, where this is the site where I can share internally within my organization about how the event went and so forth, so that people know that what's going on. There's a lot of things happening at OpenAI. It's very hard to get people's attention sometimes internally. So using tools like this is a nice way of like sharing what we have done internally with the rest of the organization. So to recap this demo, what we did was that we were using ChatGPT on the desktop. It was able to get information from my files, the photos, sort through all 100 photos, get information from my notes. This Notes app, there's no like programmatic way to get it. You have to click a lot of buttons. And you see over here in the chain of thought, you see Codex is actually reading the notes. That's why the yellow icon is over there. And I was able to synthesize it to create a LinkedIn carousel and an internal sites page. So again, I think the power of, and what's nice over here, if you notice actually here, is that in ChatGPT, there's this bar that comes up, is showing me that actually ChatGPT is using this screen. So it lets me keep track of what ChatGPT is working on elsewhere on my computer. So overall, with agents, they're able to combine information across different sources, take multiple steps, synthesize them, reconcile it, and create work that so we can share with others. Fundamentally, when we talk to ChatGPT, if I ask it to summarize meeting minutes, it's not to sort of for the sake of it, but rather because there's a step beyond that. I want to share it with others. I want to get a decision done. And this brings us to a world where agents can really help us accomplish more of our most ambitious work and give us more time to focus on the more creative stuff in life. Thank you. That's it.